All right, everybody, welcome to Being Black in America, Ann Arbor edition. My name is Asha. I am a local artist from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I did this entire exhibit just off of like my whole entire vulnerable moments in Ann Arbor. So this is what's on the walls. This is just everything that I have been through in the present, especially in the past couple years. I'm also joined here today with some greats, some Black greats. It's amazing. I'm so grateful that this is happening. So I want to introduce them all. So we have Saba Dahveed Nelson from The Last Poets. Okay, let's give a round of applause just for that right there. We're blessed in this moment to have him here. Everybody here though. We have Sowandé, an amazing artist, musician. We have Imani. She's an amazing artist and educator as well. And then we have Blair Anderson from the Black Panthers, the original Black Panthers. So I want to just give a round of applause for them just being here. Thank you, guys. And I want to start off with Blair. Can you start off for me?
How y'all doing? Okay. Better than that? Okay. I want to, first of all, thank our hostess, thank our sister, and for us two elders, thank our daughter of the revolution. Then I want to redo these introductions a little bit. How many of y'all know about the history of rap? Y'all show me, just raise your hand if you know a little bit about the history of rap. So I want to ask you a question. Where did it start? Come on, somebody had some courage. Y'all said y'all know. Where did it start? Where did it start? Where did it start? Oh, okay. The founder of The Last Poets is a Detroiter. Saba Dahveed Nelson. He's the brother who called the other two poets together. And so you're actually sitting in the audience of the correction, the amplification of the truth and the beat, the rhythm of rap that originates right here in your metropolis. Ann Arbor is part of the metropolis of Detroit. So that's who we're looking at, y'all. The founder of this. Then I want to talk about my brother, my son. Tell them a little bit about who you are and what your international credentials are and your family history of drumming. Hit it.
Hit it. How y'all doing, everyone? Excellent. Wonderful. So my name is Sowandé Keïta. Thank you, Baba, for that introduction. I appreciate that. My name is Sowandé Keïta, and I am the son of King Sundiata Keïta. Very, very important, very significant musician in the city of Detroit, but particularly in the Midwest. If we could go back to the 70s, my father was the first person to bring a djembe to Detroit. So that's part of the cultural revolution in the 70s. From there, we would get to the 80s, we would get to the 90s, and even in the 2000s, and now in 23, we're starting to hear the sound of the African drum. It's always been present in our music, but we're starting to actually see the djembe specifically in our modern current day music, right? And so my father and my mother, Mama Kehimba Keïta as well, right? Queen Kehimba Keïta, they played such an active role in the Detroit cultural scene, teaching African drum and dance, culture, literature, food, clothing, fashion, religion, just the entire gambit dealing with our ancient and even our modern traditions, right? So I'm very grateful to come from a family of culturalists, essentially that really have given their entire lives respectfully, I like to think of my parents as pioneers in having an African something for us to cultivate, right? We're talking about the 70s. That's a very revolutionary time. I wasn't born during that time, but I know Baba, these elders, put their lives on the line for our existence, for a lot of the meanings of our freedoms today. My father took the cultural aspect, right? He said, well, I'll take the drum. And he was very provocative with the drum. He's but in his lifetime, while he had the opportunity to bring the drum to the city, and that started it started a cultural revolution. So now we're looking at Chicago, Detroit, New York, different places that the djembe is being played. And so now, the djembe made its way to Ann Arbor. My father taught out here. There are a lot of people who probably play djembe today because my father was their teacher. That's the facts. That's not me bragging. That's the actual facts. Wasn't no white people playing djembe. My father probably showed them how to play. I was most likely. Because in the Midwest, there just wasn't a lot of people that was playing djembe. So, but it went even farther than that. Women play the djembe for that matter. It gets deeper because the layers of it is just it's a fine onion.
When you say deeper, you mean
it gets deeper,
more profound.
It gets more profound,
impacting throughout our culture.
Yeah,
the djembe, the heartbeat of Africa, bringing that rhythm, bringing that education, bringing that cultural power.
That's it. I say.
Imani Ma'at. And these introductions at this point are to sort of that this audience can understand why the four of us see it. And it is not us. It is actually our ancestors, our peers, and us representing that. Imani Ma'at, please tell them a little bit about yourself, your education, your father, and your lifetime training.
Hi, everyone. My name is Imani Ma'at, Ankh-Mera Amen Taylor. I am so many things, but first off, I am Dory's daughter and I am Tahuti's daughter. I'm a dancer, a student that had no choice but to become an educator. In 2022, I finished my master's degree here in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan in dance and choreography. I'm known as the first graduate student to teach traditional West African drumming dance at the University of Michigan. My father is formerly known as Tahuti Ankh-Mera Amen Taylor. He was and still is teaching, right? So he was known as a philosopher, and he studied ancient Egyptian philosophy. And so that's why I have my name, Ma'at. And so my father lived in California for some time, and he helped create an organization called ASCAT, which is the study of African civilizations. And so I don't know if people know of people of the names like Dr. John Henry Clark. That was my father's mentor, very close. It was like his personal, like his father. And then Dr. Ben Hockman. And so those are people that my father were around, and he was also a merchant. He did so many things. He designed fashion. He built computers from the ground up. Like, my dad did so many things. He was a mentor to young boys. He started a garden in the hood and made gardening like, a thing to do. We're from Norfolk, but, our family is also from New York and California. So my father is known for his libraries. His libraries was unmatched. All of the books that he had about African people, African civilization, our history, who we are as a people. And so I had no choice but to follow into his footsteps. And this August, I'm celebrating 5 years of his transition into the ancestral realm. And so there's a lot that I have to continue to push forward as his daughter and to continue those teachings. So that is who I am in a nutshell, a little bit. Daisy.
And
so myself,
tell us about it.
My name is Blair. Anderson. My name is Blair Anderson. I was one of the original Black Panthers. The infamy of my life lifted me up into a high profile in that I was one of the survivors from when Fred Hampton was murdered. There's a greater history than that. I was a gangbanger. Still am. I was literally shot and blooded into the Panthers. That is like a crazy way to look at it. But when I met the Black Panthers, when I met Fred Hampton, I had bullet holes in my body that the FBI had set up to start a war between the Blackstones and the Panthers. Both of their fathers were part of my cultural education because they did the topographical research centers. They unrolled scrolls, and I'm talking about got off planes from Africa and Asia with stuff that kings and queens had gifted them with to hide it from the colonizers who still controlled the continent. So, and then Saba Dahveed. I was the young Black Panther. And he and the last poets were the first artists, the first intellectuals to take my experience, put it on the mic. We jumped up and we found his album. 50 years later, we meet, not incidentally, but we meet at the African World Festival. So, all of us are here about being Black in America. Ann Arbor edition. And I am alarmed. Now, I think that I have, by you, been lifted to a place to be arrogantly alarmed at what is happening to Black folks and the Black community in Ann Arbor. That's what we're here about. Racism in Ann Arbor. Racism is always accompanied by misogyny, white male supremacy. So we got a double issue here. And we're not just here to talk stuff. Like, what are the issues? Let's get this on the record. What you facing? How many of you are here? What are the numbers? Somebody pull out the phone, research that. What are the numbers? How many Black folks are left in Ann Arbor? How many families are the last Black families on their blocks in Ann Arbor? How do we cross a street into Ypsilanti and find desolates? Cross back over like you're in a time zone in opulence. The university area. Is your life sustainable here? How do we make it more sustainable? Because we know it ain't, right? Feel me? You feel this threat of white supremacy? Yeah. So, we're here to have this conversation, but also to say, mobilize around your issues. Cultureverse, sister, our intellectuals. Detroit stands with y'all. Let's lift up that voice. Let's object. That's what this conversation is. Turn this back over to our hostess, but I wanted to put that in. We ain't here to just have a conversation. We here to fix something. And the first part is that you must act in solidarity, and in solidarity, ain't nothing can stop you.
Woo! Okay. Thank you. Thank you again for coming, all of you. Feel so lucky. I don't know. I feel like I'm dreaming still. The biggest thing that I really wanted to talk about is the racial gaslighting that is really just happening here. I don't know if a lot of you have gotten a chance to walk around, but this section right here, it is all about just the racial gaslighting, downplays or outright denies the racism experienced by people of color. This type of manipulation can reinforce systematic racism by leading you to question your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. At this point, I really feel that way personally in Ann Arbor. I question my worth here. I question like who I am as an artist, if I'm good enough, because I'm constantly beaten down and told I'm not good enough, or what I'm feeling is not real, or what's happening to me is not happening. And I get overwhelmed with anxiety just being here in Ann Arbor, and I know I have to leave because at this point I feel like it's crippling me as a Black woman in general. I feel like I'm like not losing myself, but I just feel like I can't be here anymore. But I felt like putting up this exhibition here, it's like a way to say kind of F you, Ann Arbor, for how you treated me. And to show you what I really went through, but also to show other Black people what they're going through. Because the opening night, tons of people just came and told me how much they were waiting for this to happen. They couldn't wait for it to happen. They're so happy it happened. It's like, I thought I was alone going through this. I literally thought I was by myself going through all of this. And come to find out, pretty much every Black person is going through the same thing I'm going through. And I just felt alone because they're not here and there's not a lot of Black. So I don't really have a lot of people to talk to about it. So to get the responses that I got, it makes me feel happy. I'm not as overwhelmed. Now I know that it's not just me going through this. But I want to know what you all think about the racial gaslighting, especially you, Imani. I really want to know your experience at U of M.
Could you define racial gas?
Racial gaslighting, right there, downplays or outright denies the racism experienced by people of color. This type of manipulation can reinforce systematic racism by leading you to question your thoughts, feelings, and experiences and what we go through. Like, I have examples. People have told me they weren't being racist, you just took it the wrong way. Or America isn't that racist, we wouldn't have had a Black president. Like, they always like to throw Obama at us. I don't think this is about race, Asha, like stuff like that. So, yeah. So I want to hear what you got to say, Imani.
Okay, so I spent 3 years at the University of Michigan in the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. I created a holistic African curriculum that I came in straight from California that I've been working on, and straight from the continent because every year I go study in Guinea to learn more about the traditions of our ancestors, what it means to be in the bush, what it means to be, how to use our togetherness to better, and how I feel like the cure to a lot of our issues is centered around the drum in the dance because it brings people together, it brings people as one. I didn't have a lot of support. I had to basically pave my own way. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't ask questions. This is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. This is the path that I'm on. And administration, and like working in the school district too. I'm a teacher at Detroit School of Arts in Detroit. I'm teaching African dance to the whole school, African drumming to the whole school, right? You have these issues with administration where you find that people who are in power, they really are not in power for the right reasons. So there was a lot of racism that I experienced. But what I did was I followed my father's advice before he passed away. I inherited my father's cameras, and he said to me, Imani, you must document everything that you do to change the narrative. So while I'm in the classes with mixture of people in Ann Arbor. Like, we have such a diverse population. They never heard of djembe before. They never heard of doom doom before. They never sung an African song and never asked, what does this mean, right? I have it all on film of how the work we were doing was actually reversing racism and the stereotypes that many of us come into spaces, right? And it was effective. I have proof of what is happening. And I went to Africa during the pandemic. I stayed over there for 3 months. I didn't tell anybody that I was going. I just popped up on Zoom one day. I'm like, hey, motherfuckers, I'm here. There's nothing you can do to tell me. There's nothing you can do to stop me from being here. But I found that when I did the thing, there were people that looked at me in my face, and I had already did the thing. They told me that you cannot do this thing, and I had already did it. So racism is a choice, right? You can choose to be defiant to the things that are coming. It's all about mindset, right? And that's what I've learned about my study with human beings and people, and then adding psychology, because I study psychology first, because I really just want to know, like, why do people do the things that they do? Why do people make certain actions? Why, what is the purpose before it has to be a thought or some premeditation before something happens, or sometimes not. And so I was just thinking about those things. And, Sowandé was there. He was my drummer for some time. Sowandé came in with a beautiful gift, was treated very disrespectful, was even terminated from his job unjustly because of, these new bullshit type of laws that they put in place for COVID. Oh, you have to be vaccinated to be in this space. What? I have to objectify my body and go against what may be my own spiritual principle just to work here? And I'm doing everything else. And so with all of the good work that we had did, there was still this negativity from administration. And it's like, are you guys working at this place because you care about students' growth? And students wrote letters and all type of stuff. Mind you, I told you everything is on film. You can actually watch the films on my Vimeo account, right? And what we did was every end of the semester, we would have an end of the year showing, and I would have all of the teachers or graduate students of color come together and bring their classes together. And we would do this end of the semester celebration to show what was happening. And a lot of our students would testify and have testimony about I've never experienced a class like this. I don't know, there's something about this drumming that is really healing me from the inside out. And, they did me really dirty my last semester there. They tried to cut my drummer. They tried to cut my class in half. Even during the pandemic when we were online, I still continued to do these showings virtually and record them because, you just can't stop at it. And so a lot of some of the racism and the disrespect that I experienced at Ann Arbor was very traumatizing, but you have to keep going and you have to know your worth. And as African descent people and African, centered, and I thank God for my parents they allow me to understand the power of who I am, and we are very magical beyond me. And racism is a very, 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 very low vibration, and you have to rise above that. And one thing I want to talk about is when you're in a space like Ann Arbor and there's other Black people there, racism can be so traumatizing that Black folks will start being prejudiced towards each other. So I experienced that too, and nobody ever talks about that. People that I built, organizations with. I cultivated an organization called Flip the Switch 529. It's redirect the energy to create more synergy for your lives and others. And so it's basically like a festival of drumming, dancing, fashion, vendors, and all type of stuff. And that was created out of that space and some of the people that I was working with. But sometimes
I want you to clarify something too.
Yes, I will. Sometimes when we've been tricked, we've been bamboozled. My father would say this shit is rigged, right? And when you're in a space like that and they only select a few Black people to get in, it creates this friction that you may not know is there, because you may come with this like love and light. Yes, this is what you need. Yeah, bro, what you need. Let's do this. Let's cultivate these things together. But nobody really talks about the racism and the prejudice that happens from this overall racism that happens from people, Caucasian people, white people, I don't know, whatever you want to say, how it creates this friction with us, right? And I don't really think, in my experience, there was enough checks and balances to understand that, hey, we here on the same mission. You don't have to go against me. I'm not going against you. They want us to divide. They want to experiment on us so we can be so frustrated that we become frustrated at each other. And I was very disappointed in that in my last semester at U of M. And I had to put all of that hurt and pain into my thesis, which was an unmasking of thyself. That was the name of my work, right? What is an unmasking? Why do we wear masks in spaces? To comply, to conform, to condemn ourselves. And why is the world telling me to cover up my mouth? Why are they trying to enslave me again and put a muzzle on my face? I digress.
Racism. Let's get this definition straight. Racism is institutional. Is supported by a social system. A white person can be a racist, but no individual white person represents racism. It is the system, the cultural dominance of people based on race, religion, gender, choices. So we need to keep that in mind, that the attack is on the system of racism. All of this holistically, this is what Asha, help me get that all the way right. Asha, this is what the many different forms, but we need to get the political language straight. It's really important, because a decent white person who is not supportive of racism can act racist in racist ways. And that distinction is important for us, especially for those of you in Ann Arbor who got white friends, right? You got white friends. And when they do racist shit, they kind of fit into this lump. And so that's just where I want to go with that. Just that one is an action, the other is a consequence of social injustice, prejudice, bias. Those are choices. And let's talk about that, because there are, in fact, I would call for our greatest intellectual, Saba Dahveed.
It's so interesting that it's bigger than any of us realize, but it's more under our control than any of us realize. And I'm talking about all of us here. It's bigger than we realize, and it's more under our control. It's so ironic that if you plant a seed, there's going to be a harvest. So what are the seeds that we're harvesting now? First of all, I've been studying this subject for about in-depth studying for over 30 years. And I came up with the central concept is the ideology. The power of ideology is that it invades your thinking process. So it creates the dichotomy over here, and ideology is the white supremacist ideology. So over here are the people who are trained by their ideology is we are superior. And then the good people say, I got my white card, but I don't play it. I'm not going to act superior. I'm going to be a good white person. But the ideology is still in their mind because, as I said when I was presenting, stand next to the wall, white person. White person in here, go stand. Somebody volunteer. Stand next to the wall and tell me you're white. It's a social construct with white being of great value and black being of no value. So then we all get it in our minds. No matter how hard we try, they're over there. They have the great value at their disposal. But they're not white, so that's how they have to, that's when they unravel, when they look at that wall and say, that's a white piece of paper, and I'm kind of pinkish. So why am I claiming whiteness? Because it's an ideology of rulership. And then the person says, but I ain't racist. I'm white, but I'm not racist. Well, you ain't white, so why are you calling yourself white? Why are all of you accepting the fact? And then the angels, what color are the angels' wings? What color are the saints' robes? Right, so what color is the devil? The devil is dark, black. So it's a psychology, an ideology that's embedded in our minds. And I was saying it's bigger than you think it is, but you got more power over it than you think you have. Today, on the way here, we all experienced it. We pulled into the crosswalk, and this guy, in his quote-unquote white rage, came and attacked the car. But the irony, it's bigger than you think it is. This guy, a block or two from here. No, not welcome to
about 20 minutes ago.
Welcome to America. This guy, but I'm telling you now, he's completely under control of a rage, and don't think he didn't see a car with black occupants. He saw it, but he couldn't help himself. He had already, boom, and he literally attacked the car. But 50 years ago, we'd have been in the back of a wagon riding with, it would have been serious damage on us because he wouldn't have been by himself and he had a bunch of people and we would have been in trouble. That's all. But today, the poor guy, he beat up the car a little bit. He kept on going, looking at us. But the ironic thing is, me, the peacemaker, I said, well, if we had a bat, I would use it, knock him upside his head. I said that, but not really. I'm glad I didn't have one, because maybe I would have done it. But I'm saying that it's the whole system of white supremacy comes down to pushing a mirror. That's the worst he could do, is push the mirror on the car. And they can't do no more. And when we did this discussion the last time, the Panthers' motto is Black Power. And one of the things the last poet said is, you got the power. You got the power. We have the power. We have the power. I think it was Malcolm. I'm pretty sure it was Malcolm. Some people attribute it to Martin. Said, can't nobody walk on your back unless you're bending down. All we got to do now is stand up and let people know all this stuff that y'all doing. I mean, pushing the mirror on the car, that's the worst thing you got now. Yeah, I guess it is. You better be careful that the elder didn't have a bat, because you got a bat upside your head for pushing the car. I mean, that's how bad it is. It's bigger than we think. It's widespread. Everybody is affected by it. You've been affected by it. You know, some of that anger that you have might have sublimated. You know what happened in Alabama, right? And how I can't forget, I was talking with this mature woman. I mean, she got to be in her 70s, maybe 80s. And she said, used the B word. She said, yeah, I know what they were doing. This is for you, B. And this is the older woman saying, this is for Emmett Till. This is for Emmett Till, B. In other words, she could see herself out there punching a woman and saying, this is for Emmett Till. Yeah. It's bigger. It's big. But she ain't punch nobody. We can, by our unity and doing things like what Aisha has done, by coming together as we have came together with her, by coming together as people willing to acknowledge that I gotta free my mind from anything that prevents me from coming together and creating. And then on the other side of the coin, the people gotta look at this stuff up against the wall and say, I'm not white, so what does it mean that I've been calling myself white all these years? It just means I've been buying into the supremacist ideology, and I gotta humble myself and find a way to get away from identifying with this mercantile system that says white people rule the world. And it's collapsing. That's all I'm saying, it's collapsing. I was just studying BRICS. If you haven't heard of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. It's an alternative economic collaborative to the U.S. dominance and ultimately to white supremacist ideological financial dominance. It's alternative. So we're creating alternatives. What you are taking part in, you have to start thinking about what we're going to do together. See, she said she felt alone, but now look here, we got a whole bunch of black folks here. And then we have some of our friends on the other side of the divide that filming us, helping us set this up. But the question, everybody's got to look and see, how has this thing affected me? Yeah, I think, and it's collapsing. And so if you realize that the whole economic control based on white supremacist ideology is collapsing, then we've got to build something better.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to ask, does anybody have anything they would like to say as we close out? Please. Oh, we have a question. We have a question.
So you were in Guinea. Did you see that place where you go and the alligators and crocodiles are super friendly? It's like...
I seen that in Ghana.
Oh, that's in Ghana?
Yes.
Okay. You been there?
I've been to Guinea, Ghana, Morocco, Egypt. Yes, I've been those places in Africa. I've been to the Nile River. I've been on the Atlantic. I've been on the coast where our ancestors were taken. I've been to the castles.
Where are the slave castles?
Mm-hmm.
And coast.
And I've documented everything so you all can see. So it's on YouTube, Venmo.
In Ghana, we actually call them the African Americans. They call them the dungeons rather than the castles. In Ghana, there are some famous structures And we say, yeah, those are the slave dungeons. And literally visiting there, you recognize the dungeon atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. It's a real dungeon.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that one last time. Do you guys have anything you would like to add?
I have something I'd like to share.
Okay.
I've been looking at the walls and reading everything that I've seen here, and I just want to applaud you, sister, for speaking truth to power. You know,
Okay.
I really want to applaud you for doing so, because there's one picture to the left that just really strikes my attention. I have not been able to stop staring at it. It's this bubble right here of the sister crying. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, I'm trying to shorten it, but the more I read it, the more my mind starts to expand around what racism looks like, the many faces that it has, what prejudice looks like, what institutional racism looks like, what postpartum slave syndrome looks like. Like, I'm thinking about so many things that, you know, that we all are enduring in some capacity. And I'm reminded about it when we drive into Ann Arbor today, like in my face, just to remind me, like, what we really came up here for is so relevant and so prevalent right now. You know, so there is definitely some serious work that needs to be done. You know, I'm grateful for what me and Imani were able to accomplish at the university. I'm grateful for my parents' work, what they've been trying to civilly do for years. But I would just say, like, continue to do this work, because we need to be reminded. I mean, I guess in Ann Arbor, we already know, but like in other parts of the country where Black people are at the bottom and white people are at the top, you know, it's an unfortunate thing, because I've traveled too, and I've gotten a chance to see things as a musician, as a drummer, as an artist, where depending on where you are, the world is not so black and white. But in America, with us, it's black and white. That's just what it is. And it's something to think about, because in the future, you know, in just the next 5 to 10 years, this world with technology is progressing quite a bit, you know, but we're still dealing with issues from my understanding from the 70s, but probably even before that, right? Probably before that, but we're still dealing with like this issue of color. This is an issue that needs a solutionary based answer. I have some good answers for them. White people who are racist, y'all should all come to my drum class. I will get y'all together. And Black people who are racist too, and prejudiced, I will get y'all together. You know what I'm saying? But I really appreciate, I'm an artist too, I just really appreciate looking at this work. I really, like, while everybody's been talking, I've been in a straight daydream, like, just like, just looking like, wow, is this really what we're dealing with in Ann Arbor? Is my sister really dealing with this? Like, because again, we were reminded in our face, right? The part of me that was Killmonger in that moment, while in the car, I had to think that my elders were in the car and think about being T'Challa. I had to think about it. But the part of me that was so enraged that you just could have walked across the car. You didn't have to touch the windows. You didn't have to push the door in. You didn't have to exercise your power. But like Baba has shared, you know, the
frustrated little boy, he didn't exercise no power. So all that rage that he had, he knew he didn't do nothing. And that's the weakness where they're standing now. They know they can't do nothing. They can't. Trump said, all the people get out in the street, and nobody went. Nobody got out in the street. You know, I want a mass support. They ain't got it no more. Ain't no Klansman riding at night. You better snatch that hood. You bring a Klansman up to me, I'll snatch the hood out his face. I mean, and reveal him to the world. We just got to.
I just want to say one more thing about it. Continue speaking truth to power. Continue telling your story. Continue selling your artwork. Continue telling us this story of the narrative of things that are going on, because there's still a significant amount of us who are unconscious of it. That's the real dynamic too, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you're telling the story and you come from a very powerful legacy within who your family member is, right? the Honorable Emmett Till, right? So I say that to say, continue to tell your story and to let people know the dynamic of things that are unfolding, because every major Black city in some capacity is going through this in this part of the hemisphere. And so it's an important reminder, because this is the part that's really interesting. Like Baba said, it's coming down. And on the flip side, now it's time to be reversed. So this is the greatest time to tell your story. With all of this technology that we have, social media, like, this is the greatest time to tell your story, to start to reverse the ignorance. That's the part that I would love to see. Like, I could tell you from teaching drum, my students are a plethora of colors. A lot of the students that I teach, depending on their age group, they don't understand any of the social justice or injustices, for that matter, because they culture is the cell phone. You know what I'm saying? So to some degree they do understand it, because there's also racism inside of maybe the platforms or what have you. But like, they're growing up in a world that's so different, similar but very different. And I see that this next generation really reversing it. But someone has to tell the story and the dynamic in what, like currently, like 23, where we are right now, and how much needs to be reverse. Like, Ann Arbor could definitely use some anti-racist classes. Maybe they got them, but after today's encounter, I'm reminded like how powerful the drum can be to help eradicate these things. The poetry, the standing up to the truth, the powers, the dancing aspect of reversing, and ultimately even having this conversation, because from here we all go back to our lives that we live, and this encounter could be spread to the masses. Like, hey, these 5 Black folks got together and talked about some things that's relevant. What's going on in your city? You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, we're in a space again where things can be reversed. That's one thing that I've learned hanging around people just a little bit younger than me. They are very, very optimistic on what things could be. You know, so, but I appreciate looking at this. I'm gonna have to just keep on daydreaming, because I still trying to.
Thank you.
I'm still trying to take it all in.
Thank you so much.
To that,
Yeah.
Asha, you have demonstrated something so powerful where you don't really have to speak about it. Like, it speaks for itself. And I think that is something that's so important. Like, when I was in University of Michigan, I just filmed everything. And at the end of the semester, I just showed it. I didn't even have to be like, this is what's happening, this is how I feel, blah, blah, blah. You can see it for yourself. Now, you cannot deny the facts, right? You cannot deny the facts on these walls, on these paintings. So I think what my biggest takeaway from this work that you're doing and the work that we're doing, there is power in our artistry and how we express ourselves. And we don't have to deplete ourselves. We can be creative, and we can have some serious ass conversations about what's happened just through being creative alone.
Thank you, guys. That means a lot. Thank you. So with this exhibit, this is just a mini part of something that I'm doing. Like, this is barely the exhibit. I feel like I didn't have enough walls, enough room. There's about 50 to 100 pieces that I didn't get to create because of, like, you know, funding and stuff, but that's okay.
It
Working
will
on
come.
it. It will come. Stories galore. I couldn't fit them all, you know, but I will keep doing that. My biggest thing is I am taking this to Detroit next. I'm working on that right now. Just where exactly, I'll let you all know.
I have
Okay.
a large space for you where I did my thesis. You can rent the whole space. You can fill up the whole wall.
Well, don't tell me that.
Speaking of filling, I would like for one moment to fill up this room with sound. I'm the wordsmith. I just want you to repeat after me. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
You got the power.
You got the power.
You got the power.
You got the power.
Let's fill it up. You got the power.
You got the power.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Now, let that sink in, that you've got the power. You are the people. And it's everyone who has enough humanness, everyone in this room has enough humanness in themselves to feel that, then I'm talking to you. I ain't discriminating. You got the power.
You got the power.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Because you got the power.
Because you got the power.
You got it.
So, another part of this is that organize. It's not complex to organize. Lift your voice. Lift your voice and others can hear you. Don't let them smother you out. Don't let them turn you into cowards who then lose home, neighborhood, community, or you compromise, right? Or racism makes you compromise and you lose yourself.
And don't turn your back on your people. That's their biggest trick.
Make you lose yourself.
And better than opposing anything, any system, is saying, okay, that little system over there, I'm going to build one twice as big and twice as good. Build, develop. This is what I'm reading a book by Grace Broggs, and this is what she says, finally realized that the people of Detroit have to begin to create an alternative way of looking at reality. It ain't about trying to get some of that, what they got. It's about building a whole, more human reality.
And understanding who you are. You are the greatest generation.
Tell them, Baba.
Of Africans in the diaspora.
Yeah, the richest too.
In history, none exceed the knowledge that you have of the world, of the universe, of self. None. And that means you bad. If you have any doubt, look back a couple of generations. Look at great-grandma.
Sankofa.
How bad she must have been. Look at her great-grandmother and father who survived. And told, son, you're so bad. Till millions of Africans, millions, tens of millions, over hundreds of years, made space for you, sis. I'm talking about each of you individually. We're not talking about this just some mystery shit. Your ancestors, them uncles, them aunties, as raggedy as they was, did, great-grandma again. We have to realize how great you are. Saba, Dahveed, and I have over 100 years between us of struggle.
150?
Never been more proud.
Just about 150.
About 150 between us, a struggle in this revolution. And we have never been more proud.
Bob Marley,
all those years.
Bob Marley got this message for you. Get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Don't give up the fight.
We got
Some
this.
people say heaven is under the earth. But if you know, like I know, what life is really worth, you will know that heaven is right here on earth. So get up, stand up.
Get up.
Stand up for your rights. Yes. Get up, stand up.
Yes.
Don't give up the fight. Don't give it up. Don't give it up. Don't give up the fight.
Don't give up the fight.
Stand up for your rights.
If you ain't in the fight, get in the fight.
That's it. I mean, you really have to be inspired by the work of this sister and all the people who tried to help her. These are people trying their best to solve this issue, but it's really on us. The diaspora of Africa hurled out into the world, and now it's time for us to stand up. At the continent, the young people are standing up. And so we here in America, we got the resources at our fingertips. Stand up for your rights. Don't go back to life as usual. But speaking is one thing, but find a way. Blair is masterful at community organizing. And we've got to organize and begin to build something. You will see Detroit, that's what it represents to me, that Detroit was destroyed, but now the people are gradually learning to build something different. Okay, trying to find, well, can General Motors come back and give me a job at the factory? No, we're building a whole different manner of relating to each other, working together.
Oh, thank you guys. Round of applause. I want to shout out real quick. I just want to shout out Cultureverse. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Cultureverse.
People are still trying to figure out how you guys allowed me to do this, especially here in Ann Arbor on Main Street. Because like I said, we have not seen anything this Black on Main Street since Carytown. I also want to shout out one of my friends. He's here. He's straight out of Africa. Edison Conan. Trap. He's literally from Africa, you guys. He's not from here. Then I just really want to thank you guys, my African kings and my African queen. Thank you for gracing me and my entire show with your presence. Okay? Thank you. Another round of applause, you guys. Thank you.
Yes.